Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the noise to bring you the signal, extracting those crucial nuggets of insight from the sources you share with us. Today, we're plunging into a truly extraordinary situation. Nepal, a nation globally celebrated for its, towering Himalayas, serene spiritual retreats, and vibrant cultural traditions. Well, it's recently captured headlines for an entirely different kind of peak, a digital one. In a world grappling with genuine debates around digital regulation, privacy, the spread of misinformation, our sources present a truly remarkable and, frankly, pretty hilarious case study from Nepal. You've shared with us this fascinating collection of articles from Democracy for Nepal, all published on September 6, 2025, detailing a series of, extraordinary directives from Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. So our mission in this deep dive is to get into Oli's sweeping digital bans. We're exploring not just the surprising specifics of what was banned, but the deeper why behind these decisions, the intriguing alternatives that were proposed, and maybe most importantly, how the Nepali people, even the international community, are reacting to this audacious vision for what the Prime Minister himself has termed a swipe-free, worry-free nation. It's a deep dive into a government's radical, almost satirical attempt to redefine national identity in the digital age, offering a swipe-free, worry-free nation, whether its citizens actually want it or not.
Indeed. What's truly fascinating here, and what these sources meticulously detail, is how these actions, while, ostensibly focused on protecting culture and national identity, how they manifest across virtually every aspect of digital life. We're talking everything from the very personal sphere of romance to the broad landscape of information itself.
Right.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture and the sort of global governance questions in the digital age, it raises profound questions about national sovereignty, cultural heritage preservation, and really the extraordinary lengths a government might go to assert or maybe even redefine its national identity in our increasingly interconnected world. The depth and breadth of these directives, as laid bare in the articles, reveal a government attempting this wholesale, almost philosophical reevaluation of how its citizens interact with global digital spaces, for better or arguably for worse.
Absolutely. The scope of it is it's mind-boggling, really.
Huh.
So let's jump right into part one, the great digital purge Oli's vision for Nepal's internet. This all kicks off with what the sources are calling the grand announcement from roof of the world to North Korea of Wi-Fi. Our sources confirmed that on September 6, 2025, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli issued an overnight decree banning Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and a staggering 26 other digital platforms, just like that. Now, the comparison the articles make, describing Nepal, a nation known for mountains and momos, as the North Korea of Wi-Fi, that's a pretty stark and provocative claim, don't you think?
It's incredibly powerful,
Yeah.
and deliberately provocative, that analogy used in the sources. It underscores both the severity and the sheer scope of these bans. Like you said, this wasn't just a targeted restriction on a few things. It was a wholesale philosophical reevaluation of how Nepali citizens engage with global digital spaces. And the reports vividly paint Prime Minister Oli as the singular, almost messianic architect of this transformation. His stated goal, according to them, to unequivocally shift Nepal's global image. From the revered roof of the world to, a self-proclaimed North Korea of Wi-Fi. And to truly grasp the audacity of this move, we really have to consider the Prime Minister's unique track record.
Oh, right. There's context here.
Oh, definitely. The articles are rich with examples of Oli's past controversial claims, which, looking back now, serve as a clear, albeit maybe bizarre, ideological bedrock for these digital decrees. Remember his steadfast assertion that Nepal, not India, invented the coronavirus cure.
I do, vaguely. That was quite something.
He once famously declared, and I'm pulling this quote from one of the articles, "Our Nepali curry is the true vaccine for all ailments."
Right.
Or his even more sweeping claim that Lord Ram's birthplace was in fact in Nepal, effectively relocating an entire mythology just like that. He also, according to these sources, suggested the moon landing was staged in a secret Nepali valley, and that the legendary Yeti was actually a distant relative of his, possessing profound wisdom only he could understand.
A relative, the Yeti.
Apparently so. Now, these aren't just eccentric pronouncements. The sources meticulously detail how these past statements, steeped in this fervent, often fantastical nationalism, established his bold, unwavering, and certainly unique rhetoric. They were, in essence, the drumbeat leading up to the grand symphony of these latest actions. He is, by all accounts in these reports, a figure who clearly believes in making grand, undeniable declarations, often rewriting history, even science, to fit his vision of Nepali supremacy. So this digital purge, then, becomes less an anomaly and more a logical, well, in his own mind, extension of his established political persona, a testament to his belief in absolute centralized control over national narratives.
That context certainly clarifies the sheer audacity of the move, doesn't it? It offers a glimpse into Allah's unique worldview. But what struck me, diving into these articles, is how this wasn't presented as a sudden, impulsive decision. Not entirely. The sources describe it more like an Everban expedition, a truly strategic, incremental ascent to the summit of censorship. This framing suggests a careful, phased approach, almost like, acclimatizing at base camps before a final push. What did those initial base camps look like, and how did they perhaps subtly prepare the Nepali populace for such sweeping digital restrictions? This brings us to Allah's Everban expedition, a gradual ascent to censorship.
That's a perceptive observation, and one the sources definitely emphasize heavily. They really do frame this as a deliberate, calculated climb, a strategic acclimatization to increasingly restrictive digital environments. The first base camp, Camp 1, which the articles detail, it involved a very public and aggressive blaming of India for the COVID-19 pandemic. And this wasn't just, a political accusation. Oli utilized national media to push a narrative, suggesting, with quite dramatic flair, that the virus was somehow imported across the southern border. He even went so far as to claim, and this is quoted, that Indian virus is more deadly than Chinese or Italian virus.
Wow.
So this served to both externalize a national crisis and solidify a kind of nationalistic us versus them mentality, planting seeds of distrust towards external influences, you see.
Okay, so that's Camp 1, set in us versus them stage.
Exactly. Then came Camp 2. This saw Oli making that bold, almost comical declaration that Mount Everest belongs entirely to Nepal.
Right, the borrowed for a photo shoot line.
Precisely. He humorously suggested China had merely borrowed it for a photo shoot, and that maps showing it shared were a cartographic conspiracy. Now, this move, while it might seem absurd to the international community, apparently resonated with a segment of the nationalistic population. It reinforced the idea of Nepal's unique, unchallenged grandeur, further asserting national pride against perceived external claims. It was a subtle yet effective way to flex those cultural and territorial muscles.
So blame India, claim Everest. What was Camp 3?
Camp 3 was arguably the most direct precursor, the banning of TikTok. This was reportedly enacted because Nepali teenagers were becoming too good at lip syncing.
Too good. That was the reason.
That was the stated reason, yeah. A skill the government, in Ali's view, believed to be a dangerous cultural deviation. The official reasoning, as quoted in the reports, was that our youth are losing their authentic voices, mimicking foreign trends instead of singing Nepali folk songs. So it was presented as a measure to protect Nepali identity from what was deemed frivolous foreign digital entertainment. Banning such a widely popular app was a significant step. It tested the waters for wider digital control, kind of teaching citizens that their online activities were indeed subject to government scrutiny and potential restriction.
Okay, so you can see the progression.
Absolutely. These three base camps created a clear progression, each step incrementally asserting more control over narrative, over national identity, digital behavior, essentially preparing the populace for what would be the summit push, the grand overnight ban of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and those 26 other platforms. It was, as the sources really suggest, a carefully choreographed escalation, asserting an unprecedented level of digital sovereignty.
Wow, that's fascinating and rather calculated escalation, showing how these seemingly disparate actions really did build towards a much larger goal. Now, the logic behind this ultimate purge is truly something else. Let's delve into the Oli doctrine, ignorance is bliss, or how to stop misinformation by stopping all information. The Prime Minister reportedly declared, and I'm quoting from the sources here, fake news only exists if there is news. If you remove all information, you remove fake information. This is called smart governance. That's quite a declaration, ignorance is bliss. But practically, for the average Nepali citizen, what does it truly mean to live under such a mandate, where the very concept of news is being redefined? What are the profound implications of this Oli doctrine for the citizens?
This statement, fake news only exists if there is news, as presented in the source. It isn't just some quirky rationale, it's the ideological cornerstone of these bans. A truly audacious Oli doctrine. It fundamentally suggests the belief that control over information is absolutely paramount, even if that means a wholesale sacrifice of open access, of critical inquiry. The new policy, bluntly put, is no Facebook, no Instagram, no YouTube, no problem. It's stark. This isn't just about combating misinformation, it's about eliminating the very possibility of uncontrolled information. The sources even detail the theatrical way this doctrine was delivered. Apparently, Oli articulated it in a press conference just before physically unplugging the main internet router at Singha Durbar, the seat of government.
He actually unplugged it.
Symbolically, yes. A gesture meant to signify a decisive break from the global digital sphere. And the powerful insight here is how easily a proclaimed solution to a global problem, like fake news, can be twisted into a justification for complete informational control. It blurs the lines between protection and absolute censorship. The reports even claim this four-step doctrine: identify problem, fake news; identify source, all news; eliminate source, ban all news; achieve peace, ignorance, has been formally submitted to the UN as a revolutionary model for world peace.
To the UN,
Yeah.
seriously.
According to these sources, yes. For citizens, it implies a complete and fundamental transformation of their information landscape, moving from a globally connected digital experience to one where external, uncontrolled information is almost entirely absent. It forces us and them to ask, what is truly being saved when free inquiry and diverse perspectives are just eradicated?
And it positions his approach as not just effective, but somehow superior to the rest of the world's efforts. The forces suggest other countries waste millions on digital literacy programs, fact-checkers, while Oli offers what they ironically term a caveman solution. This raises huge questions about different approaches to a shared global problem, doesn't it? The sheer audacity of presenting such a simplistic yet absolute solution.
It absolutely does, and it highlights a stark philosophical divide, really. While many nations invest heavily in complex digital literacy programs, fact-checking initiatives, sophisticated algorithms to combat misinformation, all requiring substantial resources, intellectual effort, Oli's caveman solution, as the source terms it, is basically to cut off the problem at its roots by eliminating the source entirely.
Just drain the pond.
Exactly. The Prime Minister, as quoted in the articles, reportedly scoffed at international efforts. He said something like, "They build bigger nets to catch tiny fish. I simply drain the pond." It's presented as this shortcut, a radical simplification of a complex global challenge that, in his view, other nations are failing to address effectively.
But the implication.
The implications are profound. It's a strategy that essentially trades the difficult, ongoing challenge of discerning truth, fostering critical thinking, for a mandated informational void. It speaks to a deep-seated distrust, perhaps, in the public's ability to navigate complex information environments independently. It favors governmental control over individual empowerment. This approach doesn't just eliminate misinformation, it stifles any information that isn't state-sanctioned, fundamentally reshaping public discourse and potentially isolating the nation intellectually. The articles present this as a highly controversial point of discussion in the broader international discourse on digital governance. It forces us to consider the underlying assumptions about human nature, the role of government in shaping public thought. It's a bold experiment in social engineering on a grand scale, cloaked in the guise of cultural preservation.
Fascinating, albeit. Yeah, unsettling to see such a radical solution proposed for a global challenge. But the reach of Oli's directives, according to these fascinating reports, extends into an even more intimate personal sphere: love and romance. Let's delve into part 2. Love in the time of Oli dating apps and tradition. The sources describe a bold initiative called Swipe Left on Love, aimed at protecting Nepali culture from what the Prime Minister provocatively termed swipe marriages. This sounds like a direct and rather profound challenge to modern courtship. What exactly was the Prime Minister's central issue with dating apps? Why did he see them as such a threat to traditional Nepali love stories?
The sources paint a very vivid picture here of Oli's deep-seated concerns regarding modern romance. According to the report, the Prime Minister genuinely believes that dating apps are a dangerous epidemic threatening the very fabric of traditional Nepali love stories. You know, those rich narratives historically woven in song, poetry, arranged encounters orchestrated by elders, or even the occasional romantic elopement to India.
The classic.
Right. He expressed particular alarm that young people were now meeting through, and this is a direct quote again, Tinder profiles featuring duck-face selfies and badly lit Momo pictures, which in his view signaled a profound crisis of tradition and cultural authenticity.
Badly lit momos. The horror.
Apparently. His stance was unequivocal, almost a decree on the nature of courtship itself. He declared quite definitively and with characteristic flourish, swipe left is not culture, swipe right is not tradition. Real Nepali marriage begins with family astrologers, not push notifications, and certainly not with a casual match based on filtered photos. He reportedly lamented the loss of the slow burn of traditional courtship, where families meticulously vetted potential partners, horoscopes were aligned, community elders played a central role. For Ollie, these digital platforms weren't just alternatives, they were direct, erosive challenges to the deeply rooted social and familial structures of courtship and marriage that defined Nepali culture. They bypassed the wisdom of elders, the sanctity of astrological alignment, the collective approval of the community.
And there was a particular app that seemed to offend his sensibilities more than others, wasn't there? Bumble, specifically, seemed to really get under his skin. What made that platform uniquely problematic in his eyes?
Yes, you're absolutely right. The reports highlight Bumble as particularly offensive to Oli's vision of traditional order, and his reaction was quite specific and widely quoted. His primary issue with Bumble was its core feature. It empowers women to make the first move in initiating conversations. In a retort that became quite famous, though probably not shared on banned platforms, Ali stated, "In Nepal, women already made the first move. They invented the momo, perfecting its delicate folds and spicy chutney. But relationship, that is man's department. The stars decide, not some random algorithm chosen by a woman." This statement really underscores his conservative views on traditional gender roles within relationships, and his fervent desire to preserve what he perceives as established hierarchies in courtship. It's a very specific and, somewhat humorous detail from the source material that truly brings his cultural preservation agenda into sharp, even patriarchal focus. It demonstrates his micromanagement extends even to the subtle dynamics of flirtation.
So he's not just taking away these apps. He's proposing an alternative, which leads us to Ollie's alternative, alimony.com and the National Dress Code for Love. What's Ollie's vision for approved romance? He's not just taking away, he's giving us. Alimony.com. That's quite a brand, isn't it?
Precisely. To meticulously fill the void left by the banned dating apps and guide Nepali youth back to what he deemed culturally appropriate courtship, Ollie is reportedly launching his own government-approved dating service, quite aptly named Alimony.com.
Alimony. Got it.
And this platform promises a very different, entirely controlled dating experience. The sources detail a remarkable list of features designed to embed traditional customs and, frankly, political reverence into the very act of seeking a partner.
Okay, like what?
For instance, all potential matches,
Oh.
which would normally be algorithmically generated, they must instead be pre-approved by the local ward office that's a government administrative unit.
Pre-approved by the government.
Yes. Ensuring that only suitable candidates, perhaps those from approved families or with the right political affiliations, are ever presented. Horoscope verification isn't merely optional, it's mandatory before any chatting can even begin. A digital nod to the ancient practice of astrological compatibility.
Mandatory horoscopes.
Okay. And instead of the familiar casual swiping gesture, users must perform a traditional greeting, folding their hands in a respectful namaste and pressing a corresponding namaste button to express interest.
No swiping, just namasting.
Exactly. And the only allowed pickup line, as the reports hilariously detail, is the very specific and politically charged. Oli ji ko ashirwad se,
Which means?
by Oli ji's blessing. A phrase meant to acknowledge the Prime Minister's omnipresent role in their romantic journey. It's a dating service designed not just for love, but for ideological conformity.
That's incredibly prescriptive, even down to the first words exchanged. And it doesn't stop there, does it? The government also issued a national dress code for love specifically for these profile pictures. This truly sounds like an all-encompassing vision for traditional aesthetics.
Yes, the dress code is another layer of meticulous control, aimed at reinforcing traditional aesthetics and subtly promoting a government-approved image of Nepali identity. Profile pictures on alimony.com must feature individuals in traditional attire, Dota Surwal for men, that's the traditional shirt and trousers, often with a waistcoat, or Gunyu Cholo for women, the traditional Nepali dress. This is a direct counter to the more casual, globalized fashion often seen on international dating apps.
Right, and specific rules too.
Oh, yes. The rules, as reported, extend to very specific prohibitions and exceptions. Shirtless gym selfies, a ubiquitous sight on many dating apps worldwide, strictly prohibited, deemed immodest and un-Nepali.
Okay, no gym selfies.
However, there is one notable and rather humorous exception. They are only permitted if the individual is prominently holding a kukuri, the traditional Nepali knife.
Holding a knife in a dating profile picture.
Perhaps to signify strength, tradition, national pride. It's unclear, but that's the rule, according to the sources. And in perhaps the most amusing detail, Duck faces, another ubiquitous selfie pose, are to be replaced with goat faces.
Goat faces.
In honor of the Dashain, a major Hindu festival where goats are sacrificed and celebrated. These very specific, even amusing directives from the sources truly highlight the extent of the cultural angle Oli is pushing, attempting to micromanage even the most personal forms of self-expression to align with his traditionalist and somewhat eccentric vision. It's about cultivating a very particular image of national purity, even in romance.
So, given these sweeping changes and highly prescriptive rules, what does this all mean for the Nepali people? How are the different generations reacting to these seismic shifts in the pursuit of love? This takes us to reactions, parental delight, and youthful resilience.
The sources report a very clear and perhaps unsurprising generational divide in reactions to these romantic redirectives. Parents across Nepal are, by and large, absolutely delighted by these measures. For many, these bans aren't an infringement, but a welcome return to perceived order, a safeguard against the uncertainties and perceived moral decay of modern digital courtship.
So the older generation approves.
Strongly. One father from Bharatnagar is famously quoted in the articles expressing immense satisfaction. Finally, Oli did something useful. Now my son has no excuse. He must marry the cousin we selected. No more confusing apps, just tradition. This sentiment speaks directly to the traditional values the policy aims to reinforce, where familial selection and arranged marriages are deeply ingrained cultural practices, often seen as ensuring stability and continuity. For these parents, Oli's policies are actively preserving a way of life they cherish.
That's a powerful illustration of the policy's intended impact on older generations. But the youth, as they often do, seem to be finding ways around the restrictions, demonstrating a fascinating resilience and adaptability in the face of such strictures.
Absolutely. The reports provide vivid anecdotes that highlight this youthful resilience and ingenuity. They suggest that Kathmandu's vibrant cafes are now filled with young couples who, to outward appearances, are diligently studying for civil service exams, poring over textbooks, whispering about future careers. However, a closer look reveals a subtle, clandestine operation underway. Beneath the tables, they are secretly swiping on VPN-powered dating apps, using their phones hidden from view. This illustrates a quiet, yet determined underground rebellion against the digital restrictions, where the pursuit of personal connection continues to find illicit channels.
So they're pretending to study.
Seems like it. One university student, interviewed covertly by Democracy for Nepal, was quoted whispering with a mix of defiance and longing. They can block Tinder, but they cannot block desire. Love, like water, finds a way, even if that way is through a very slow VPN. This statement really captures the enduring human element in the face of such sweeping restrictions, the innate desire for connection, autonomy, self-determination. It continues to find new, often innovative channels for expression, even if those channels are illicit and carry a degree of risk. It suggests that while the government can impose bans, it ultimately struggles to control human nature itself, particularly when it comes to something as fundamental as finding companionship. The sources describe it as a constant cat-and-mouse game where youthful ingenuity is always, it seems, a step ahead.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? This attempt to control versus the persistent human need to connect. It makes you wonder how long such restrictions can truly hold. Let's shift our focus now to the bigger picture of Nepal's digital landscape, or maybe the lack thereof. In Part 3, the Great Firewall of Himalaya, redefining mountains and connectivity. You know, Nepal is already home to the world's highest peaks, but now, according to our sources, Prime Minister Oli has literally made the Himalayas taller. It's called the Great Firewall of Himalaya. How is this, well, possible? What are the implications of this metaphorical height for a nation already defined by its mountains?
It's a truly powerful and evocative metaphor used extensively in the sources, suggesting that the censorship has become this new, imposing, almost physical feature of the landscape, as tangible as the mountains themselves. The reports claim that this virtual firewall, at an astounding 11,848 meters, that's the 8,848 meters of Everest, plus an additional 3,000 meters of virtual height added by the digital bands, is now officially the tallest firewall in the world.
Taller than Everest, virtually.
Virtually, yes. They even humorously note that VPN access is required for its summit, and only the most intrepid digital mountaineers dare attempt the climb. Cartographers are reportedly quite confused by this new metaphorical peak that needs to be accounted for on maps, debating whether to represent it with a red line or maybe a digital cloud icon. This satirical redefinition of Nepal's global identity is crucial. It links its natural grandeur, its most iconic physical feature, with its new digital reality. It effectively states that its virtual barriers are now as formidable, as awe-inspiring, and as challenging to surmount as its physical ones. The sources describe it as a deliberate act of digital isolation, turning Nepal into an island of analog in a sea of global connectivity. The implication for its citizens and the world is that engaging with Nepal now requires navigating not just its treacherous mountain passes, but its equally challenging digital ones, fundamentally altering how the nation interacts with the outside world.
So it's not just a technological barrier, it's a statement about national identity, control, written large across the landscape, and this redefinition of the landscape affects everyone, including those who navigate the physical mountains. What does this mean for the legendary Sherpas? Those guides who brave the mountains, known for their resilience, their knowledge, are they now like tech support? This is Climbing the Firewall, Sherpa Edition, and the Base Camp Paradox.
The sources suggest a comical yet profound retraining and reorientation of traditional roles, particularly for the revered Sherpa community. Sherpas, long admired for their unparalleled mountaineering expertise, their strength, navigating the harshest conditions, they're no longer primarily fixing ropes on ice falls or guiding climbers through perilous crevasses.
So what are they doing?
Instead, according to the reports, they are now engaged in a new kind of climbing, setting up intricate VPN connections, troubleshooting bulky Wi-Fi routers, and discreetly smuggling TikTok dances past customs at Lukla Airport.
Smuggling TikTok dances.
That's what the sources claim. They offer a telling quote from one veteran Sherpa, Eng Norbu, who sagely remarked, "Before, I carried oxygen tanks for climbers to breathe at altitude.
Yeah.
Now I carry backup routers and fully charged power banks for them to scroll at altitude. The risks are different, but the need for connection is still life-sustaining, it seems."
Wow, from oxygen to routers.
And the traditional brag amongst climbers, "I climbed Everest without oxygen," has been humorously replaced by the modern digital equivalent. "I managed to post a selfie from Kathmandu without a VPN, and it actually went through." This illustrates how deeply the digital bans have permeated everyday life and cultural identity, even reshaping the benchmarks of achievement. The Sherpas, known for adapting to extreme environments, are now adapting to an extreme digital environment, becoming indispensable guides for navigating the Great Firewall of Himalaya.
And it creates a peculiar paradox, doesn't it? Especially for tourists reaching Everest Base Camp, a place you'd expect to be connected, offering that triumphant moment of sharing your achievement.
Indeed. The Wi-Fi at Everest Base Camp, once weak, notoriously unreliable, but still functional enough for a quick message or a blurry photo upload, now serves a very different purpose. The sources claim it exclusively loads looping videos of Prime Minister Oli's speeches and official propaganda.
Only Oli's speeches. At Base Camp.
Yeah, that's the report. Imagine the profound disillusionment after a grueling 2-week climb, finally connecting to Wi-Fi at base camp, only to find yourself greeted not by messages from loved ones or the chance to share your triumph, but with a looping video of Oli declaring, with great conviction, Nepal is the birthplace of everything, including the internet, which we have now perfected by turning it off.
Oh, man. That's brutal.
It's a stark, almost cruel illustration of the pervasive nature of the bans, the government's efforts to control even the most remote digital interactions, turning a moment of personal triumph into an unexpected dose of state-mandated propaganda. It fundamentally reshapes the entire experience of trekking in Nepal for those expecting modern connectivity, transforming a once aspirational digital sharing moment into an unavoidable encounter with the Oli doctrine. Many trekkers, the report suggests, are now just refusing to connect, choosing blissful ignorance over digital disappointment.
That certainly changes the definition of a digital detox, doesn't it? Forcing it upon an unsuspecting public. And the economic implications for Nepal, a country so heavily reliant on tourism, must be significant. No Instagram-worthy Everest selfies, no #Nepal adventure to share. This brings us to the Oli Tourism Board. Once is not enough, because you'll be stuck refreshing. What's the tourism board saying? How are they attempting to pivot in this new digitally restricted landscape?
Indeed, the sources highlight the significant and often ironic negative impact on Nepal's vital tourism industry. They humorously note that tourists might now actually have to enjoy the mountains. A tongue-in-cheek jab at modern travel habits.
Right. Let's look around.
Seems radical. The tourism board, according to the reports, has been forced to make a rather cynical update to its iconic slogan. It used to be, "Once is not enough," inviting repeat visits. Now it's been updated with a telling twist to, "Once is not enough," because you'll be stuck refreshing, wondering if your photo ever uploaded.
Oh, that's bleakly honest.
It's subtly and somewhat morbidly acknowledges the new digital reality while attempting to retain some semblance of his former appeal. Package tours, too, have been creatively, or perhaps ironically, updated to reflect the new restrictions. They now include Everest treks with complimentary VPN oxygen tanks, ensuring a breath of fresh digital air at high altitudes.
VPN oxygen tanks.
Oh. Tourists can also opt for guided meditation sessions on why memes are banned, offering a philosophical approach to digital deprivation. And for the culinary adventurers, there are complimentary momos that taste slightly of censorship, adding a unique, almost metaphoric flavor to the local cuisine. These new offerings satirically reflect the changed tourist experience, where digital access or the lack thereof has become an integral, if undesirable, part of the adventure.
That's quite an adjustment for an industry that thrives on sharing experiences. And there's a telling quote from a trekker, mentioned in the articles, that really drives home the modern tourist's mindset and the challenge facing Nepal's tourism sector.
Yes, it's a quote that perfectly encapsulates the contemporary tourist's dilemma. A horrified trekker, clearly distraught in the bustling Thamel district of Kathmandu, is quoted asking, "If I can't post a photo of my overpriced dal bhat to Instagram, did I even eat it? Did I even exist in Nepal?"
Well, if it's not on Insta, it didn't happen.
Exactly. This line, steeped in modern digital consumerism, perfectly illustrates the profound shift in how many contemporary tourists experience and validate their travels. For a significant number of travelers, the digital sharing of their experiences, the curated photos, the witty captions, the real-time updates, it's not just an optional add-on. It's an integral, almost validating part of the experience itself. Without the ability to post, share, and receive immediate social media validation, the perceived value of the experience itself, at least from their perspective, diminishes. The sources suggest this represents a new form of digital consumerism in tourism, where the journey isn't truly complete until it's been broadcast to the online world. And Nepal's new digital reality fundamentally clashes with this modern expectation.
It's almost as if the government is mandating a return to a more analog form of travel, whether tourists like it or not. But this desire for control doesn't stop at information or even romance. It extends to emotions and expression, which brings us to part 4. The Ministry of Happiness and Mandatory Laughter controlling emotion and expression. So, if you thought the bans were just about information, think again. Our sources describe a new Ministry of Happiness and Mandatory Laughter, with a motto that's just priceless. No memes, but only memes. How does a government even begin to regulate something as inherently personal as emotion and humor? What does this new ministry entail?
This new department, replacing the former Ministry of Information and Communication, it truly takes censorship to an unprecedented and, frankly, Orwellian level. It's an audacious attempt to regulate emotion and humor itself. The motto, no memes but only memes, is indeed incredibly telling. It perfectly encapsulates its mission. The sources detail that citizens are now legally required to smile at least 3 times a day, preferably after watching Prime Minister Oli's latest speech.
Legally required to smile.
This isn't a suggestion, it's a mandate. The government has reportedly even distributed official smile calendars to every household, reminding citizens of their daily quota of state-sanctioned joy.
Smile calendars.
And the consequences for noncompliance are equally striking. Failure to produce a convincing smile, or worse, failure to laugh genuinely at Oli's jokes, like his infamous past claim that Nepali curry, specifically a special blend he personally endorsed, could cure COVID-19 and even global warming.
Right, the miracle curry again.
Failure to laugh at that could result in 30 minutes of forced meditation while staring intently at his framed portrait, followed by a mandatory re-education session on the merits of positive thinking. This moves far beyond merely controlling information. It actively attempts to control internal states and outward expressions of feeling, fundamentally redefining what it means to be a citizen in Nepal, where even one's emotional landscape is now under governmental purview. The sources describe it as an attempt to enforce a pervasive, if hollow, sense of national contentment.
That is truly Orwellian. Attempting to control thought and humor down to such a granular level. So in this context, what does a state-sanctioned meme actually look like? And what about our everyday communication like emojis? This is Oli as the only acceptable punchline, memes, anthems, and emojis. How does the government manage to regulate something as viral and spontaneous as memes?
The sources provide hilarious yet chilling examples of what constitutes an approved Oli meme, demonstrating the sheer absurdity and depth of this level of control. For instance, the universally recognized distracted boyfriend meme has been reimagined with a Nepali twist.
Okay, how?
The distracted boyfriend represents Nepali youth. The alluring woman he's looking at is a forbidden VPN connection. And the disapproving girlfriend he's supposedly committed to, none other than Prime Minister Oli himself, peering over the youth's shoulder with a stern expression.
Oh my goodness.
Similarly, the two buttons meme now features a sweating Oli faced with an impossible choice, pressing both freedom and ban Facebook buttons simultaneously. His face a contorted mask of internal conflict. And the Drake meme succinctly captures the ideological shift. The top panel shows a disgusted Drake rejecting democracy and free speech, while the bottom panel shows an approving Drake enthusiastically embracing Ollie talk and mandatory happiness. These aren't spontaneous grassroots expressions of humor, they are state-sanctioned forms of propaganda, all revolving around the Prime Minister, crafted to subtly reinforce his image and policies, and crucially, to ensure he is the only acceptable punchline.
And it extends even to the national anthem and emojis. That's quite a reach, to reshape such fundamental elements of national identity and digital communication.
Indeed, the government's ambition reaches into the very soundscape and visual language of the nation. The national anthem, according to the reports, is reportedly undergoing a radical transformation. It's being replaced with an EDM remix of Ollie's most rousing speeches and political declarations.
An EDM remix of speeches.
Yes. Thamil DJs, typically known for spinning international hits, are now under governmental directive to test tracks like Ban It Again, Ollie Remix, a techno-infused ode to censorship, and Mustache Beats Volume 1, a compilation featuring danceable excerpts from his addresses. The sources describe these remixes as mandatory listening in public spaces, turning national pride into a club-like experience, whether citizens like it or not.
Mandatory club beats of Ollie's speeches.
And even emojis, those ubiquitous symbols of digital communication, are not exempt. They are being transformed into state-approved reactions designed to reinforce ideological conformity. So a simple smiley face on now means I agree with Ollie and find his policies brilliant. A neutral face signifies I am neutral, but still loyal to Ollie and his vision. Oh. A crying face morphs into, I miss Facebook, but Ollie's leadership is still great. And the mind-blown emoji odd boldly signifies, Ollie just said Nepal invented the iPhone and the wheel, and I am overwhelmed by his genius. These minute details, as presented in the sources, demonstrate the government's deep penetration into citizens' daily lives and expressions, aiming for absolute ideological and emotional conformity, making even a casual digital interaction a political statement.
The audacity of claiming Nepal invented the iPhone is quite something. But the government scientists are backing this up with some science of their own, aren't they? This is the science of happiness and the people's response. Is there any scientific basis for this mandatory happiness policy? Or are the sources suggesting there's any segment of the population actually buying into this? Or is it merely political theater? And how are people actually reacting to this enforced joy?
That's a critical question, and the sources directly address it with a healthy dose of satire. Government scientists, presented in the reports as solemn figures in lab coats, assure citizens that banning Facebook will instantly raise national happiness by an astounding 300%.
300%.
That's the figure. Their scientific reasoning, as quoted, is delivered with a straight face but is clearly intended to be absurd. No Facebook means no fake news, no TikTok means no wasted time scrolling through pointless videos, and no Instagram means no comparing your Momo plate with influencers who clearly use better filters. They even claimed a study showed a direct correlation between screen time and grumpy face syndrome, which they asserted was cured overnight by the ban.
Grumpy face syndrome.
Okay.
The science is, of course, presented as entirely government-manufactured, a justification rather than a genuine finding. The irony, however, is not lost on the astute observer, as this very statement was reportedly delivered by an official who was secretly scrolling through his VPN, nervously checking his own banished social media feeds. This illustrates the profound disconnect between the official narrative and the personal realities, even for those enforcing the rules.
So how are the people actually responding to this enforced happiness, knowing that even those delivering the message might be covertly circumventing the bans?
The public response is, predictably, split, nuanced, and quite complex. Some Nepalists are indeed outwardly adapting, perhaps out of genuine belief, but more likely pragmatic conformity or maybe fear of repercussions. Graffiti has reportedly appeared in Kathmandu with messages like, Ollie is love, Ollie is life, scrawled on walls, sometimes next to official posters. Creating a peculiar blend of state messaging and street art, these might be genuine expressions of loyalty or simply a clever way to avoid unwanted attention.
But there's defiance, too.
Oh yes. There's also a clear and vibrant undercurrent of defiance and resilience. The sources detailed the emergence of black market meme clubs, where citizens meet secretly, often at midnight in dimly lit basements or remote tea houses, to exchange what the reports humorously call forbidden cat videos and politically incorrect GIFs. These clandestine gatherings have become vital social hubs, a form of quiet rebellion where suppressed humor and information can still thrive.
Secret meme clubs.
Exactly. One organizer of such a club, interviewed anonymously, stated, "They can ban the internet, but they cannot ban our laughter, especially not at Oli's ridiculous goat face selfies." This shows that while the government can attempt to control outward expression, it struggles profoundly to suppress individual desire, creativity, and the fundamental human need for shared humor and connection, leading to the formation of vibrant, if underground, communities where forbidden information and humor can still thrive. It's a classic case of human ingenuity finding a way around restrictions, no matter how comprehensive.
It seems censorship, no matter how comprehensive, often sparks its own unique forms of rebellion and innovation. And that leads us perfectly into Part 5. Nepal's Digital Rebellion and Oli's Aspirations, VPNs, and Dictatorship 101. With widespread bans, the sources suggest that VPN usage has exploded, becoming a competitive national sport complete with VPN Olympics. This is VPN, the new national sport of Nepal. So if the government bans everything, what happens next? The sources suggest a fascinating, almost comical cultural shift. VPN speedrunning is now Nepal's national sport. Can you tell us about these VPN Olympics and how this unexpected competitive scene has emerged?
You've hit on one of the most remarkable and ironically positive outcomes of these bans, as depicted in the sources. Forget traditional sports like cricket or football. The reports claim Nepal's hottest and most intensely competitive national sport is now VPN speedrunning.
VPN speedrunning.
Yeah. The roles are surprisingly simple, but demand incredible digital dexterity. Connect to a foreign server before the cyber police monitoring software notices. Brag about your supposedly Swiss or Icelandic servers, even if they're actually in a very crowded Bangalore data center. And earn bonus points for streaming TikTok for more than 5 minutes without any buffering. The sources even suggest the Ministry of Sports is reportedly considering replacing traditional cricket matches with VPN tournaments, anticipating higher viewership and certainly more national engagement.
So actual competitive events.
The articles mention vibrant rumors of a grand VPN Olympics 2025 to be held in Pokhara, the scenic lakeside city, complete with specific, highly specialized events. We're talking about a 100-meter VPN dash where competitors race to connect to a Singaporean server in under 3 seconds flat.
Under 3 seconds, wow.
Then there's the marathon, a grueling endurance event requiring participants to keep Netflix running for the entire uninterrupted length of a Bollywood epic like Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham.
That is a marathon.
My personal favorite is the Ollie blocking match, a test of quick reflexes where contestants must spot and block Ollie's auto-playing speeches on YouTube before the first word of propaganda can be heard. And for team coordination, there's synchronized VPNing, where entire teams attempt to log in simultaneously without crashing the shared Wi-Fi connection. A true test of collective digital prowess.
That's incredible. So what would the winners get in these highly coveted VPN Olympics? Miniature routers as gold medals, and how are these digital athletes actually training for such intense competition?
Exactly. The gold medals, according to the reports, are indeed miniature gold-plated routers. Highly prized symbols of digital freedom. Training for these VPN athletes has also evolved dramatically. Instead of lifting weights or running marathons, they now perform laptop lifts, simulating the quick movements needed to hide their devices. Their regimens involve practicing simultaneous logins during the frequent load-shedding power outages, engaging in the new national game of guess which VPN still works tonight, and sprinting between different cafes in Thamel to find the strongest and most elusive Wi-Fi signal. One young champion, a mere teenager, proudly declared to a Democracy for Nepal reporter, "I don't jog every morning, I ping test. My latency is my legacy."
My latency is my legacy. Incredible.
Ironically, the government, through Oli, even attempted to frame VPN usage as a form of patriotic digital exploration. In a speech that many found baffling, he claimed, "When our youth connect to Paris via a VPN, it is the same as climbing Everest, except cheaper and you don't need to pack warm clothes." Quote, "They are exploring the world, and this makes Nepal stronger." This highlights the government's complex, contradictory, and somewhat bewildered stance on digital freedom. Trying to put a positive spin on a widespread circumvention of its own bans, it's a remarkable cultural adaptation that's both defiant and inadvertently sanctioned.
That's incredible. This surge in demand must be creating an entirely new economy, a hidden digital landscape. Which brings us to the booming VPN black market in Nepal as a Silicon Valley for VPN developers. So what's happening on the ground with this sudden, unprecedented demand for digital workarounds? We're seeing a booming VPN black market described in the sources, and apparently Kathmandu's youth are turning into tech whizzes faster than you can say firewall.
The sources paint a truly vivid and compelling picture of this unexpected economic and technological adaptation. In bustling markets and hidden alleyways of places like Pokhara, vendors are no longer just selling trekking gear or handicrafts. They are now, according to the reports, covertly whispering deals for VPN services, offering enticing packages like ExpressVPN 2 devices, lifetime guarantee, comes with free Momo and a promise of buffering-free Bollywood. This illustrates how quickly an illicit market can materialize to meet a prohibited yet deeply desired demand.
Free Momo with your VPN.
Apparently. Prices for VPN subscriptions are reportedly rising so fast that they may soon replace gold as Nepal's reserve currency, indicating the extreme and almost desperate value placed on digital access and connection to the outside world. This economic adaptation is a striking testament to human ingenuity.
But the youth are doing more than just buying.
Yes. What's even more profoundly striking, and an unexpected consequence of all these bans, is that the youth aren't just consumers of this black market, they are becoming its innovators. The reports enthusiastically declare teenagers in Kathmandu are now coding apps faster than Sherpas climb Everest. Driven by necessity and a thirst for connection, these young individuals are rapidly becoming adept at developing new circumvention tools, creating bespoke VPNs, finding new ways to bypass the digital restrictions. By 2027, experts are cautiously predicting that Nepal's top export could very well be VPN subscriptions and digital circumvention tools, right next to its traditional exports of carpets, tea, and handicrafts.
So Nepal, the next big tech exporter of VPNs.
This highlights an incredibly ironic and innovative response to censorship, where the very act of suppression has inadvertently fostered a new, highly skilled, digitally fluent generation, capable of not just circumventing restrictions, but potentially creating a new, unexpected technological export industry for the nation. It's the Silicon Valley of VPNs, born out of a digital iron curtain.
It's an unintended consequence, to say the least, and a rather ironic one. You try to shut things down, and you inadvertently spark an entire new industry and a generation of tech innovators. But these bans, this intense digital control, seem to have broader geopolitical implications, or at least satirical ones. For a truly wild twist, our sources suggest Prime Minister Oli is North Korea's newest intern. He's apparently applied for Dictatorship 101, a crash course in absolute control offered exclusively in Pyongyang. This sounds like satire, but it's the analysis presented in the sources highlighting the extreme perception of his policies. This is KP Oli, North Korea's newest intern, Dictatorship 101.
The sources definitely lean heavily into the satirical here, portraying Oli as an eager, almost fawning student of authoritarianism. They describe a leaked application letter, supposedly not VPN protected and therefore widely circulated, from Oli to the supreme leader, Kim Jong-un.
The leaked letter.
Supposedly. In this letter, Oli reportedly asks, with a desperate plea for validation, "Am I doing it right? Please advise, esteemed supreme leader." Oli is presented as long admiring Kim's meticulous work, seeking to emulate various aspects of North Korean governance, such as family dynasty rule, perhaps hinting at his own ambitions for political longevity, the internet ban, obviously, and crucially, mandatory leader worship. The sources even state he was testing this with an Oli Die Rocks button, designed to replace the like function on any remaining internal networks, requiring citizens to express approval for his leadership.
Oli Die Rocks.
If Kim is known globally as Rocket Man for his missile launches, Oli is now comically dubbed Bayonet Man by the international satirical press, launching decrees instead of missiles to disrupt teenagers' weekend plans and social lives. It's a sharp, humorous, and deeply critical portrayal of his governing style, suggesting he's taking lessons from the most extreme examples of state control.
And his orientation day in Pyongyang didn't exactly go smoothly, did it? These anecdotes really bring the satire to life, showing the clash of cultures and political styles.
They absolutely do, adding another layer of absurdity to the narrative. The sources recount that Oli's first day in Pyongyang as an eager intern didn't go smoothly at all. He reportedly mistakenly greeted Kim with Namaste Day, a traditional Nepali greeting meaning respected elder brother, which reportedly confused Kim and his sporadic entourage.
Namaste Day to Kim Jong-un.
Apparently. However, in a surprising turn, this unexpected cultural gesture surprisingly impressed the supreme leader, who apparently found the concept of yoga diplomacy intriguing enough for it to potentially be added to North Korea's next 5-year plan for international relations.
Yoga diplomacy in North Korea.
Okay. During his training, Ollie was shown how to create state-approved TikTok clones, a highly controlled digital environment designed for propaganda. He reportedly envisioned Ollie Talk, where the only allowed dance trend is clapping in rhythm to his speeches, and every challenge involves reciting his past declarations. A North Korean official, observing Ollie's keen interest in absolute control, is even quoted, with a touch of dry humor, saying, "He is learning fast. By 2026, he might even figure out how to block air in his country, ensuring complete loyalty to the breath of his wisdom." These anecdotes, while clearly satirical, underscore the international community's perception of the extreme measures being taken in Nepal.
That's a strong and rather ominous statement from North Korea. And what about the reaction from Nepali citizens themselves to this international internship and the increasing global perception of their prime minister?
The sources reveal a deep sense of frustration, tinged with dark humor among Nepali citizens regarding this international internship. They mention that Nepali citizens are reportedly considering a rather drastic and satirical measure, offering Prime Minister Ali as a cultural exchange gift to North Korea.
Offer him as a gift.
In return, they humorously express a hope for something less authoritarian like a used missile, a year's supply of free rice, or even just a functional Wi-Fi router.
Yeah.
This desire, however exaggerated for satirical effect, further emphasizes the deeply felt sentiment of the people regarding Ali's increasingly restrictive policies. It's a poignant reflection of widespread dissatisfaction and a longing for greater freedom, wrapped in a layer of cynical humor, suggesting that the citizens would prefer almost anything to their current situation, even a symbolic exchange with one of the world's most reclusive states if it meant a return to a more open society.
So what does this all mean for Nepal? We've seen a nation attempting to embrace traditional values through sweeping digital bans, effectively creating a great firewall of Himalaya, and even cultivating a ministry of happiness where smiles are not just encouraged but mandatory. It's a fascinating, if sometimes unsettling, blend of ancient solutions being applied to very modern problems, pushing the boundaries of what national identity means in the digital age.
This deep dive has shown us a country navigating an incredibly complex and paradoxical path, where the profound desire to preserve cultural heritage and national identity clashes directly and dramatically with the unstoppable tide of the globalized digital age. The profound irony, as the sources so eloquently point out, is that in attempting to control information and connection, Nepal has inadvertently fostered a vibrant, resilient, and deeply innovative culture of digital defiance and ingenuity. Far from creating a swipe-free, worry-free utopia, these bans have inadvertently birthed a burgeoning Silicon Valley of VPN developers, turning a nation of mountain climbers into a nation of digital mountaineers. This raises an important question for you, our listener, to consider, one that resonates far beyond the peaks of the Himalayas.
In a world grappling with genuine information overload, the pervasive spread of misinformation, and the constant pressure to regulate online spaces, could a radical digital detox truly lead to a swipe-free, worry-free society? Or, as the case of Nepal seems to suggest, does such extreme governmental control simply redirect fundamental human ingenuity and the innate desire for connection into new, unforeseen, and often illicit channels, permanently changing the social and technological landscape in ways that are far more complex and perhaps even less controllable than the original problem? What would such a detox truly cost us? And what unexpected innovations might it unintentionally unleash?